was the catalyst for me in that original stage was when they were talking about the Commonwealth Bank, the old Commonwealth Bank, being pulled down and a 6-story office building being put in the middle of the town. And I just went, we're not consciously looking at our skyline, but if you suddenly had a 6-story building sitting in the middle of Alice Springs, people would suddenly go, oh, no, you suddenly have a massive structure being built. It's not going to be pulled down. It's there. And you go, how ugly is this? And then you start looking at the buildings around us. And you look, most of the modern buildings that have been built since the 1980s are really ugly. There is nothing in there that reflects the beauty of this town. It's the absolute contradiction. So that was the catalyst in the beginning. But once you actually start looking at the sky and looking at that line between the sky and Earth, you get just, because you step outside of the central town of Alice Springs and you're just in awe the whole time of the absolute beauty. You know, I wake up in the morning and I look out onto the McDonald Ranges through my blind, a bamboo blind, and I look and I can see the glow on the range. It's telling me what time of the morning it is. Because in a sense it's political, but when you actually get down to doing skyline, you again are seduced by the atmosphere and the beauty of the landscape. And Ian Campbell is one in particular who has done it. Being Strangeways again has done it in a really strong manner of giving you those elements of man-made reflecting against the skyline. They're the two that really reflect it in a very good way. I personally would have liked to have been political, but I couldn't draw the straight line on the canvas to cut through the beauty of the natural form. So hopefully people will find within it a consciousness to at least consider it and consider the space in which they live.
I've never necessarily tried to be didactic, but a site like this is a site that I walk past every day on my walk into town at lunchtime. And when we were thinking about, the issues and our concern about skylines and Alice Springs horizons and heritage, this was one of those iconic sites that to me is just so lovely to look at, and it would be such a shame. It's so easy, because we're so busy in our lives, it's so easy to not notice the things that actually enrich our lives. The nature of skyline, I mean, if you look at the definition, it's this idea of where the land meets the sky, that imaginary line that we see. And those correspondences between the two, between either the urban or the nature or the things that have changed or stayed the same, and space and the sky. And that's just so resonant. I mean, you actually think some of the most iconic skylines are the huge cities. When you think Manhattan, you think, some of the London skylines, the skylines in Sydney with the Opera House. It's not about urban or rural or semi-urban. It's about everyone, wherever we live, is made up of that combination of man-made and natural, urban and nature.
And so the context is different in every situation.
Absolutely, and within different aspects of the same situation, different places in town. I think the diversity of this exhibition, from a fairly small group of artists in a very small place, a long way from anywhere, the sheer diversity of all of our responses to our skylines just shows how many different ways the skyline can affect us.